Let me say this clearly right here at the start. If you think you're lazy, I want you to pause for a moment because lazy people don't feel guilty for not doing the work. Lazy people don't lie awake at night thinking about everything they should be doing. Lazy people don't care this much. So if you care, if you want to move forward, but you just can't, that's not laziness. That's overwhelm. And in this video, I'm going to show you why trying harder has been making it worse, what's actually happening inside your brain, and what finally works when discipline, motivation, and productivity hacks fail. If you've ever thought, what is wrong with me? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, that question disappears. Somewhere along the way, we turned productivity into a moral issue. If you're moving forward, you're disciplined. If you're stuck, you're lazy. But that label isn't scientific, it's cultural, and it's especially dangerous for high performers, entrepreneurs, and ambitious people, because when systems stop working, we turn the blame inward. You don't say, this approach doesn't fit my nervous system. You say, I need to try harder, I need more discipline, I just need to push through. And every time that doesn't work, the guilt deepens. You care, you put in effort, and then you stall, and then you shame yourself for stalling. That loop is not laziness, it's overload. Overwhelm isn't about having too much to do. It's about having too much open, too many decisions, too many expectations, too many unfinished loops pulling at your attention. Overwhelm happens when your internal pressure exceeds your capacity. That's why even simple tasks feel heavy. That's why you avoid things you want to do. That's why clarity feels just out of reach, and the more important the task is, the harder it becomes to start. Not because you don't care, but because your system is overloaded. This is where neuroscience matters. When pressure builds, emotional, cognitive, or time-based, your brain doesn't optimize for progress. It optimizes for safety. Stress activates your threat response, your nervous system shifts into protection mode, and the part of your brain responsible for planning, prioritizing, and decision-making, your prefrontal cortex, it goes offline. That's why motivation disappears first. That's why focus collapses. That's why procrastination shows up. Not because you're broken, but because your brain is doing its job. Procrastination isn't laziness. It's a stress response. Most productivity advice assumes one thing, that you're calm. Time management assumes clarity. Discipline assumes capacity. Motivation assumes safety. But when you're overwhelmed, those tools feel impossible to use. And when they fail, you don't blame the tool, you blame yourself. So you add more pressure, you tighten the schedule, you push harder. And the nervous system responds by shutting down even more. That's why forcing yourself hasn't worked. You can't out-discipline a dysregulated nervous system. This is the shift that opened everything up for me. Momentum doesn't start with effort, it starts with regulation. When you lower your internal pressure, clarity returns. When your nervous system feels safe, action becomes possible again. This is the foundation of my momentum reset method. Not doing more, not pushing harder, but reducing before producing. I learned this the hard way, trying to force progress while silently burning out, wondering why everything felt heavier the more I cared. Once I stopped fighting my brain and started working with it, momentum became repeatable. Not dramatic, not exhausting, but real. The moment you drop the laziness label, something powerful happens. The guilt loosens, the self-trust returns. Progress stops feeling like a fight. You stop asking, what's wrong with me? And start asking, what pressure am I under right now? That single shift turns overwhelm into information, and from there, momentum becomes possible again without burnout. Here's what I want you to do instead of trying harder. Pause and ask a different question. Not, why can't I do this? But instead, what pressure is my system responding to right now? Then reduce one thing. Shrink the task, lower the expectation, create a safer starting point. Action follows safety, not the other way around. That's how real momentum begins. So, if you've been calling yourself lazy, let this be the moment you stop. You're not lazy, you're overwhelmed. And overwhelm is not a character flaw, it's a nervous system signal. If this resonated, let me know in the comments. Where have you been blaming yourself? And if you want a clear, repeatable way to rebuild momentum without panic, the momentum reset method is linked below. because you don't need to try harder. You need a system that works with your brain.